Hello, and welcome to Women Speak, a production of the Women's Resource Center in Wayne. I'm your host, Mojda Keika, and in each episode, I focus on a topic that is of interest to women and the people they care for. This interview is being conducted via Zoom during the Coronavirus Crisis 2021 on MLTV Mainline Network. Today, Women Speak is honored to talk with Nicole Stephenson, Director of the Society of Professional Women, or SPW, a program of the Mainline Chamber of Commerce. Nicole has over a decade of experience leading and executing marketing, promotions, sales, and event responsibilities. Her passion has always been in helping others to overcome obstacles and to achieve success. Through her role leading SPW for the Mainline Chamber of Commerce, she has recognized the impact of its work on future generations in achieving greater gender equity. Over the last few years, SPW has also used its unique platform to share inclusive programming and knowledge about inclusion for all. Additionally, professional development opportunities through networking, education, and collaboration challenge its members and companies to act purposefully and apply what they've learned to improve their organizations and communities. The beginning of Nicole's career was spent in the media industry, working for one of the top radio stations in the Philadelphia market, KYW News Radio, in both marketing and programming for over 6 years. Her favorite podcast is Work Life by organizational psychologist Adam Grant. Adam's book, Give and Take, changed her career trajectory and encouraged her to be her biggest self-advocate. Nicole, I am so excited you are joining Women Speak today and that we will be discussing SPW and its role in empowering women. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mojda. I'm so happy to be here. I love speaking about this topic. So thank you so much.
Oh, we're so excited to hear more. And as an initial question, could you please describe SPW and its role?
Absolutely. So the Society of Professional Women is over a decade old. It was created at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce to assist in moving the needle for gender equity in our companies, our major companies. We have small businesses, entrepreneurs, mid-level, as well as Fortune 500 corporations that belong to our Chamber of Commerce. And we saw a need and we stepped in to fulfill that need by hosting all sorts of programming, which we'll get into later today. Do you want me to share the mission now?
Sure. That'd be great.
Okay. So the mission that we started for SPW was to accelerate the advancement and expand the influence of women leaders of all professions and generations, strengthen our business community, and support our nonprofit organizations from the region.
Wow, that's a very encompassing mission. So you span almost all sectors of the professional society. And how does it help female professionals generally, the individuals that come to your events?
Yes, so when we are planning our events, we have an advisory council, which is like many of our committees that we host at our chamber, that is made up of women leaders from different organizations, as well as, our sponsored companies that invest in the program in order to achieve some of these goals. And so really, when we look at the content that we're providing, it's really inspiring. It develops confidence. It's for education, so it helps to further educate. So that's really what our goal is when we're helping our professionals. And it's also a sense of community. So, that I'm not alone kind of feeling when you're in a room with other professionals that can share experiences that they're going to. And it kind of validates how some people are feeling on occasion, especially in our mentoring program, which we could talk about also a little later. I'll get deeper into that. But really, it's a sense of community. It helps provide education. It inspires people. And I think it instills that confidence that they need to keep moving the needle forward in their professional careers.
We could only wish that every outlet was like yours to inspire and bring community together. That's amazing. And how has SPW changed over time?
Our founder was very entrepreneurial in spirit. So it originally started out with a few programs, like once a month, a couple months, there was like these larger scale programs. Then which we call our trademark events, which can have anywhere from 100 to 250 people when we were in person, as now we're virtual. Our largest trademark event to date, we had 410 attendees. So really awesome celebrities, keynote speakers, authors, our local female CEOs to give them the stage and show that there are women leaders out there and give them a voice to share some of the initiatives they're working on. And then it really grew by having lunch and share conversations 4 or 5 times a year, which are more interpersonal. There's around 75 to 90 attendees, a lot of panel discussions, a lot of human resource topics. And some of our mid and small size companies do not have, legal compliance efforts or their own law firm working for them. Some personal development. So those are like our little workshops. Then we have this peer mentoring group that we've discussed, where we have a class of 15 to 20 individuals from different industries and companies sharing a different topic each month and really navigating their career path throughout the entire year together. We have our signature event with the Mainland Chamber of Commerce called our Gold Leaf Award, which highlights a female executive in the region that is going beyond just moving her company's needle, but giving back to nonprofit organizations or volunteering their time or really making a significant impact externally. We have our No Limits Leadership Workshop, which we had started actually when I came on in 2014. And that's to have a panel of female executives just helping the undergraduate community kind of hear about these barriers they might face when they get into the workforce. And we partnered that with our Talent Education Network program at the Chamber to reach undergraduate students. So we now have 5 programs within the program, which is why sometimes people confuse it as an organization. We have our own website, our own social media. And so SPW has really started from 1 or 2 programs a decade ago, just to help with personal development or professional development, and then really expanded and added like these larger programs throughout the course of only 2 to 3 years. And so over the last decade, we've really just kept those, because you can't add something every year. But we've really developed and manipulated the program to be all-inclusive, which you mentioned earlier, which has been really fabulous to see us adding. So when we speak for gender, we speak for all minority groups, or we believe it's our responsibility to. So we've addressed neurodiversity, racial diversity, all of it. And so we really started to develop our programming kind of around this equity word as a whole, not just about gender, but of course our mission is still the same.
That's amazing. An incredible breadth of offerings to people in the community. And when you say about these new initiatives in the last couple of years, were they driven by perhaps your advisory board, or how were they formulated?
So I believe that once SPW had such a captivated audience and the support of so many sponsors and members of our chamber, and we have this platform, we do have the council to tell us what's happening in different industries or what the real needs are. And then of course we have society telling us what we need, right? So over the course of 2020, there was a lot of racial injustice. And so we wanted to make sure that we were addressing those needs in the community. 3 or 4 years ago, neurodiversity was important to me because I have neurodiverse individuals in my family. And so Dr. Temple Grandin, an individual with autism, came and talked about things that maybe people aren't thinking about as much as, that blue paper it was hurting an individual's eyes, like they couldn't understand the data because it was on blue paper. And like, how do you address that with human resources, right? And different lighting affects people. So just really encompassing some of those things. When addiction was classified as a disease, we brought in an addiction seminar and talked about, well, what does this mean for insurance? We had an attorney. We had 2 different addiction agencies to talk about the matter. One person in human resource specifically, can I take leave for myself or my son? So like, we're diving into deeper topics now where, like I said, our mission is always to support women and hope for the advancement of women. But we also have a responsibility, like I said, to engage on these other levels. And I definitely don't take personal credit for that, but it's something that I'm very aware of. And we bring that to the council and they say yay, nay, or they might even join in and say, my company has an expert on this. Let me help you with that. So it's been really nice to see. We also have some under the table, diversity, equity, and inclusion roundtables that we've been having every quarter over the last 2 years with some companies to talk about how to incorporate employee resource groups into companies that don't have them and what that means. And we've been really putting this documentation together in summaries and sharing them among some companies that ask us for advice or help about how to implement some of these strategies. So while we're not providing any additional initiatives as far as adding more programming, because I think that's very much, set, we are doing other things under the radar that maybe people don't see. Like when someone reaches out and says, hey, I need to help do this. Do you know anyone? We're making those formal introductions. So that's been really interesting to see happen. And I'm glad we have those resources at our disposal.
Oh, that's amazing, especially as you have that side of even advisory collaboration with companies. That's something I didn't know about. And what are some of the initiatives that you're launching in terms of what's next in the SPW calendar, or maybe a couple of months down the road? What are some of the insights you have into that?
Yes, so we have a couple different people on our agenda already for next year. We know that our first event is going to be on January 13th with Mary Fran Bontempo, who is a previous speaker of SPW that had a really positive feedback. And she's teamed up with another TEDx speaker, Kristen Smedley, and they provide a program about Rise and Thrive, which really has to do with, the disruption and the change and how to thrive through that. And we know we've all been going through that for some time. So really great opportunity to open our year with that really inspiring, fresh perspective. And so I know we have that as our first event. And then, of course, you can really find all of our events at spwmainline.com. We didn't release all of the rest of the calendar yet because we're still confirming a few more things, but we generally do have our calendar completely locked in by the 1st of January for sure. And like I said, it's already like 75% complete right now. So that's like the last week of this December that I'll be trying to nail more of that down so that we can all share that calendar with all of you, because it's going to be an exciting year. Some of the speakers we have confirmed are really exciting.
That's great. And I know you're really involved in female empowerment. And I was wondering, how would you like to see the business world change in the future from your perspective as being head of this program?
Yes. I think the pandemic, I like to see the glass half full kind of person. So I think there's been a lot of positivity surrounding the remote flexibility. I know that we've seen some drastic changes to women leaving the workforce and actually stepping backwards when we were already making so much progress because of, the childcare issues, or, during COVID, during lockdowns, or certain specifications where schools were not open, or who's leaving and who's not. We actually had the UN Global Gender Champion, Josh Levs, a few years ago, speak about caregiving. And when we give women permission to caregive, you give men permission to caregive, women can then excel in the workplace. And it almost is like, I'm not going to sit here on a soapbox and say, oh, it's about women deserve all this leave, and women, it's about just equity, period, across the board. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, it's about humanity, really. So for me, I think that seeing into people's homes through Zoom and watching their dogs come in or their kids come in, or, that's not gender exclusive. There have been men that have had their kids running in the background when they're working. And I really think that we have created this sense of empathy where people are understanding, okay, we need to let people live their lives because there's so much more going on than just their jobs. And I would like to continue to see that needle move. Now, I don't think that is black and white. I don't understand where the companies are like, you're 100% remote or you're 100% in person. I think hybrid is the best way because that's allowing people to be their authentic self when they come to work. And if you're hiring individuals that you cannot trust to work remote, then why would you ever hire them in the first place? So then that's going to bring on a whole nother can of worms where we're talking about trust, right? Like we should be able to trust our people to do the jobs we're hiring to do. So with that, we should be able to provide them the autonomy to work in the environment that they succeed the best at. So I think that all, like for me, I would like to see companies focus more on trusting individuals to make their own decisions about where they thrive when they work.
And during all the challenges we are facing now, what is some advice you'd give women professionals?
So I know that we talk about work-life balance a lot in women programming because, the coveted work-life balance. And I've heard some speakers on both ends of the spectrum where people do a beautiful job of communicating what work-life balance looks like and believes that it's possible and attainable. I've seen people trash work-life balance and say that's unrealistic, and it actually causes women more stress to even consider that. And so when we're talking about what kind of advice I would give, I lean more on in the middle of those. Like, I think that's kind of true, that work-life balance is either attainable or unattainable, depending on where you are in your life, which is very, different for different people, and things come up. So I think my advice is to be present. So in order to have this work-life balance, I think it's important to be present where you are. So if you're at work, be at work. If you're at home, be at home. Set very specific boundaries. Like, I'm not going to bring my phone to the dinner table. I'm not going to answer email at after 7 o'clock. Like, there need to be boundaries. I know when I was speaking with someone over the summer, I remember they said, I had to create an office because I was working at my kitchen table and my kids kept interrupting me, and they didn't really think I was at work because I was at the kitchen table. And so, make those spaces that you need. Set those boundaries. I know when you're in a working from home environment, it's very difficult to separate yourself, because even I have challenges doing that sometimes. And it's so easy to get stuff on your phone that it's almost like, I don't want to wait till tomorrow. I might as well just answer this really quickly. And if that helps alleviate stress for you and you can do that, that's great. But if you're sitting there and you're not listening to your child, and we all fall into that. So I'm not judging anyone for doing either. I'm just saying, if I could give advice, my advice would be present where you are so that you can take advantage of the real joy that you get from either outcome.
That sounds like very sound advice, especially when you're trying to demarcate your day and you're working from home. All the boundaries become blurred for a long period of time, and that could lead to serious issues like burnout and fatigue.
Right. And guilt, I always have that guilt creep in because I'm not present, and then I wind up regretting it, and, like I said, give yourself grace too. That's another piece of advice. Like, don't be so hard on yourself when you do let the boundary fall down, because, no one is perfect, and, you work at it every day.
And on another related topic, if you could distill all the wonderful skills that we learned at SPW, what would you say is the most important skill in today's workplace for women professionals?
I'm a lifelong learner. I've always enjoyed school and education, certificates, classes, sign me up. I think the greatest skill we could have is to know that we don't know everything. We don't have all the answers. I don't care if you got a doctorate in your specific industry or, because we're all different culturally, we all learn differently, we all have our own set of unique experiences that lead us to our beliefs. I'm not saying we have to adapt or accept everyone's beliefs. I'm just saying we need to listen, really, and learn. So I think the great role that SPW's played in terms of learning the skills is that we're teaching people how to be empathetic and listen and understand that people come from different places. We're providing all these different, speakers that are providing different types of advice and education. And so I think we're teaching people how to listen and how to take things away from what they're learning and apply it. So listening and then application is probably the best skill that we're teaching right now.
That's great. It reminds me of being open-minded and following through on what you learn.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if we could take it back to the organization of SPW itself. If you could tell me how many members there are in SPW, how is it funded, and how many perhaps female business owners do you have in that organization?
So the way that we count our membership is really based on the Mainland Chamber of Commerce, because we are a program. So when we say members of SPW, I would say we have over 900 companies that belong to our chamber. And each company can have anywhere from 1 employee to over 500 employees. So coming up with the specific numbers is a little difficult because we said, like I said, we have 900 companies and then each one has different levels of people. But we do also, like I said, have these email blasts that we send to different organizations or people that signed up to receive them. And not all of them are members of the chamber. And we have over 4,000 email addresses on that list. And yes, some of them are also members of the chamber. So just some context of how big, our email following is. But we also have sponsors of the program. That's how it's funded. So we have over 40 sponsors, like I said, small business to Fortune 500 companies that align with our mission and vision, utilizing it for different reasons, of course, some for professional development, some to complement their ERGs that we talked about earlier, which means employee resource group. Some are using it to entertain clients and provide introductions and networking for them. Some are using it as a recruitment tool. So those sponsors are paying for the program for those specific reasons. It's also funded by people in attendance, of course, when we have our events. And small female business owners, I would say we have about 20%. And that's because a lot of our financial industry have independent advisors. We have realtors, who are independent. And then, of course, we have people who are consultants. We have a lot of consultants. So yeah, I would say about 20% are small business owners.
That's a significant percentage, given that we are in a region with headquarters of a lot of companies, especially in the bio field and the educational field. So having those small business owners and female-led and instructed programs is very valuable for them to find their niche. I also read that you are a member of the Forum of Executive Women in Philadelphia. How have you seen professional female networking groups evolve over the past couple of years?
I'm really glad you asked that because, some people will approach me with the question, well, why join your group over this group or which one's the best? And, it would be easy for me to sit here and say, no, join us, right? And I really don't think that's the case. I will be quite honest with people when they come to me. So yes, I mentioned we have 20% female business owners, right, or entrepreneurs. The National Association of Women Business Owners, NAWBO, in Philadelphia is a chapter. They've been around a long time, much longer than we have. They have programming specifically for the women business owner way more frequently than we do. So we may cover entrepreneurship or confidence or time management, which would be valuable to a small business owner, but depending on their budget and what their needs are, they may really need to be with an organization like NAWBO to really direct them and lead them into this entrepreneur journey that they're on. So, same thing with the Forum of Executive Women. It's a very specific thing. There are also multiple over the last decade. I mean, originally when we first started, there were only these larger organizations like the Forum or NAWBO or us. Now there are multiple networking organizations too that are like, smaller, but mainly networking. So not really professional development content, so to say, like big keynote speakers, but just literally a place you can go and network. Whereas our organization has networking built in because we have an amazing chamber behind us and networking is a part of all we do. And then we have the capacity to bring in those speakers. So we all offered something different. So for me, we are also in alliance with Vision 2020, which is now called Vision Forward, and I'm a delegate. And they also have very different goals. So any organization that is here to empower women, we fully support that. And I advocate for that. I just need to know what a company or a person's individual or company goals are to direct them in the right place. And I will never say, hey, join us over someone else just to suit, our goals. It's really important to us that when people join our chamber or become a part of SBW, that they're there and they're receiving the benefit of why they're there.
Thank you for making those distinctions, especially as it relates to someone's personalized experience in a networking group and what would best fit them at a particular time. And to continue on the theme of networking, it seems that networking and professional lifelong learning seems to be the main offerings at SPW and at the Chamber. What do you see as the future role of SPW?
I think our role is pretty clear, and I don't see it changing much more than it is. I think we've made amazing progress. We have statistics now from some of our corporations that were sponsors with us from the very beginning. Some of them are 50% female leadership now, which is incredible. So as long as we're moving the needle in the right direction, that's just what we're going to keep doing. And we're also going to keep advocating for other minority groups because we have this amazing following and platform that, as I said earlier, we believe it's our responsibility and obligation to use our platform for good, right? And it's to continue moving the needle, not just for us, because until we receive greater gender equity, we also have an obligation to receive equity for all, because then it will just improve everyone's quality of life. So for me, I see the future of the role remaining pretty strong. And I don't think we're going to go away. Like, I remember someone had once said to me, I want to know when the day is going to come where we don't have to have special organized events for just women or to empower women. And I'm like, well, why would that ever go away? Like, it's always good to empower people, right? And, you know, one of the unique things about SPW is that we had 20% men attend our events, and that was done purposefully, because until, you know, female leadership is heavier or more dominant or more purposeful to have women in those positions, we need the men at the top that are in the C-suite to hire or promote from within and get women into these roles. So right now we need that allyship. So we need to have them as part of the conversation.
Well, we've spoken about a broad range of issues and the offerings of SPW. And I would like to know, if there's one thing our viewers take away from this conversation, what would you like that to be?
I think there's a real powerful, we just had our Women Helping Women graduation from the class that was with us for the entire year. And the sentiments that I took away from that group were very much about the personal relief that people were feeling that they weren't alone. So I think it's important for people on a journey to have others they can vent to, confide in, be inspired by, learn from. And so I encourage people on a journey professionally and even personally to find a community, right? And that's really what we are. We're a community of people that all have a common goal of wanting to be successful or succeed. And it's so important to not know you're alone. So having a community like that is key. And so for me, like I said, I don't need you to join SPW, so to say. I just would encourage others to do some self-exploration and find a place where they can be their authentic selves and inspire themselves to be, you know, the best that they can. So if you're considering joining a group, I would do it. I wouldn't wait for it.
That sounds wonderful, Nicole. And we want to thank you so much for sharing your insightful expertise and experience with us today. You certainly gave us a deep look into SPW's role in empowering women and being a collaborative partner in the community. To our viewers, thank you for watching Women Speak. To learn more about the Women's Resource Center, please visit our website, womensresourcecenter.net. I look forward to bringing you more in-depth conversations in future episodes.